What's up? What's up? Earl Skakel in the building. Busy day for NHL fans. The first day of free agency. So it was quite a day, especially for the Los Angeles Kings. A lot of moving and grooving. Some additions, some subtractions. And of course, last night we had the great pay-per-view AEW style Forbidden Door, which is a blending of AEW's main roster and New Japan. A pretty good card. Not great. It was very long. I think it clocked in at close to 6 hours, which is bonkers. I mean, I would have. Now, I'm talking about from 0 hour to Swerve and Will Ospreay. So I would have. I watched all 6 hours, but I'd be honest with you, I got tired. I mean, there were times when I had to just lie down and shut my eyes and I don't know, man. It was rough. And it wasn't the best flowing pay-per-view, to be honest with you. Yeah, we could talk hockey. We'll go in and out of hockey and other comedy talk. Kind of shocking that the Nashville Predators, I put the mic a little closer to me, signed Stevie Stamkos, Mr. Tampa Bay Lightning, along with maybe Vincent Lecavalier. That's a big and he goes to their rival. I mean, Florida's their number one rival, but it's pretty shocking. They kind of did him dirty, I thought. This is a guy who's played with you for 16 years, got you multiple Stanley Cups, and I don't know. It's just they seem to take care of Hedman. They kind of dumped Sergachev to Utah. I like that for Utah if he's healthy. And I don't know. Didn't sit well with me how this whole Stamkos thing laid out. And he's only 34. He's not that old. But I forget him and Doughty. They've been playing for so long. It's Doughty's only 34, I think, and he seems a lot older than he is. It is afternoon, baby, but it's morning somewhere. William Zoom. I got held up doing some business last night, and then I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't get up this morning. I was too tired. So we're branching into some hockey talk early, Zoom. And then they signed the Nashville Predators also signed Jonathan Marchessault from the Vegas Golden Knights, an OG King of the Misfits Vegas Golden Knights. So that was, I won't say that was shocking. I think it was pretty well known that Marchessault would be leaving. But, end of an era in Vegas, I guess you'd say. I think Carlson might be the only one left from the original bunch of the Vegas Golden Knights, because I believe Alex Martinez, funny enough, went to Chicago today. Chicago is very busy. Signed Pat Maroon. I'm surprised guys like Martinez and Maroon would go to Chicago. I mean, they're at least 3 years away. And Maroon's, Uh, he's known for being the guy you bring in for the Stanley Cup. Now, maybe they trade him at the deadline. That could be true. No, you did not get Rip Van Winkle. I'm an honest Earl. I woke up and I was like, I can't do an hour plus stream. What did the Kings do? Let me see. The Kings. Well, here's who they lost. They traded last week Carl Grundstrom to San Jose. Blake Lizotte today signed with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's a good little fire plug. Penguin fans will like him. They did not offer a contract to Jacob Ingham, who was a very, very good goaltending prospect, but he had a back injury during the window of his opportunity, so other guys just kind of leaped ahead of him in the Kings organization. But he'll catch on with somebody. He's very good. And then Matt Roy signed with the Washington Capitals, joining Pierre-Luc Dubois. Capitals traded for Jacob Chychrun very cheaply, I might add. Thought the Kings might be in on that one. And the Kings added 2 free agents. Joel Edmondson from Toronto. He's a tough, rugged defenseman. And, I think he won a Stanley Cup on St. Louis. The Kings needed a little bite back there, especially losing Roy. I thought they were going to get Brendan Dillon, who I believe signed with the Devils. So I would have preferred Brendan Dillon because he's a little more, he's healthier. I don't think Edmondson has played a full season in quite some time. But we do have Andreas Englund has a backup now, if he is needed in terms of toughness. And we got from the Edmonton Oilers Warren Foegele, who I think had a few nice goals against the Kings in this year's playoffs. And we traded, of course, I think 2 days ago for Tanner Jeannot. He will basically is a more aggressive. What up, Dylan? Jeannot's a more aggressive Carl Grundstrom. He makes about $1 million more than Grundstrom. So that's a little surprising because the Kings are pretty tight at the cap. I think they have right now about $10 or $11 million, and they got to re-sign Byfield and Spence, who are RFAs. They did re-sign Kalia, but most people think that he will be traded. I know I wouldn't be surprised if because the big rumor was Kalia was going to Ottawa in some package deal for Chychrun. So that did not happen. So I don't know. The Kings roster is going to be it's pretty full already. There's really not a lot of open spots. You've got, they lost Arvidsson. They lost Lizotte. So that's 2 open spots that will probably be filled by Akil Thomas and possibly Samuel Fagemo. There's some other options. Losing Lizotte now. So, the Kings, they've got some roster. It's going to be an interesting training camp. Of course, that's not for another 2 months because there will be some new bodies on this roster. They lost Arvidsson and Lizotte up front. They basically lost. Well, they didn't lose. They traded Pierre-Luc Dubois for a goalie. So, 1/3 of your lineup in terms of the forwards will be different. So, I don't think the Anaheim Ducks are going to trade Zegras to the Kings. I would love that because what I would do is I'd hold on to Kaliev because Zegras and Kaliev were line mates for Team USA in, I believe, 2020, maybe. So that could revitalize Kaliev. I mean, you're gonna have to have a kid line of sorts do the salary cap for the Kings. So, and Alex Turcotte will be. So the fourth line. I mean, the first line is going to be, obviously Kopitar and Kempe, and then Dano. Probably the second line will be Dano, Moore, and Fiala. I would guess the fourth line could be something along the lines of Turcotte, Thomas, and Jeannot. So you're gonna, you might. I don't know where you put Byfield. I mean, he's ready for the leap, I think. So maybe Byfield's the second line center and Dano's the third line center. And then whatever else they do, if they do anything, it's going to be interesting. So, and then defensively now, I'm going to assume you're going to have Doughty and Anderson, Gavrikov and Clark. And the third pairing would be Spence and Edmondson, or Gavrikov and Spence, and then Clark and Edmondson. I mean, the one thing about Brandon Clark is he gets hit a lot, and that's getting hit a lot at the AHL level. So, the NHL level is going to be, even more so. They're going to head up, baby. So it's going to be interesting to see who they pair Clark with. I would guess they would want him with Edmondson, who's not a fighter of note, but he's a guy who, if someone runs Clark, he will go up to him and go, "Hey, man, not today." And then Jeannot will come over and, brother. So the Kings are definitely going to be tougher to play against, which was their big concern. And, I mean, basically they have to build their roster to, in their minds, they figure they're going to play against Edmonton in some round of the NHL playoffs. So you're basically building your roster to beat Edmonton. They also have Darcy Kemper in goal now. That's who they got for Pierre-Luc Dubois. The backup, I don't know. Big Save Dave Rittich will be the backup. They've got Portillo in the minors, but he's not ready yet. And then you don't know what is happening with Phoenix Copley. So, there's absolutely, it's going to be a pretty high roster turnover for the Kings. And that's, excluding anyone else they pick up. Now, I don't think they're going to pick up anyone else in free agency. There's just no room. And, we'll see what happens. I mean, I would say they're a playoff team, but, when you look at Nashville and what they did, I mean, the West is pretty tough now. I mean, the Ducks are going to be pretty bad for a while. I mean, they will get a nice haul for Zegras if they do get rid of him. But, you're also losing what Zegras brings to the table. Apparently, he's a bit of a wild card off the ice. I don't mean partying or anything, but, he's a spoiled kid probably. Panthers gave Reinhart 8 years, $8 million average. A little long and too much money, in my opinion. Well, I mean, didn't he have 57 goals this year? Now you got to figure, the next 2 to 3 years are his prime window, maybe 4 years. So, that contract probably won't look good in the back half of it. But, you don't worry if you're an NHL team. What are we going to be doing in 7 years? So right now, I think the cap went up $4 million. So it's not that bad. Because the Panthers lost some players today. They lost Lomberg, who I really liked. I was hoping the Kings might be in on him. They lost Montour, and I think one or two other players. So, the team they ice next year is not going to be the team that won the Stanley Cup. But I'm sure Reinhart was their number one. We got to sign this guy. And then, Gensel goes from Carolina to Tampa. Basically replacing Stamkos. So it was a busy, busy day. I mean, let me go on my trusty website. So Skinner resigns with the Oilers. Corey Perry resigns with the Oilers. Shane Gossenberg goes back to the Canes. Wenberg signs with the Sharks. Um, Jack Campbell signs with the Red Wings. Also, Cam Talbot signs with the Red Wings. Dumba to Dallas. Anthony Duclair now on his 9th NHL team to the New York Islanders. Chandler Stevenson to Seattle. That's a big one for them. Casey DeSmith, Pittsburgh to Dallas. And then, let's see, Druin to the Avs. DeBrusque to the Canucks, 7 years. That's a big deal. Matt Roy to the Caps. Stolars to the Leafs. So the Florida backup goes to Toronto. Lafferty to Buffalo. Toffoli to the Sharks. Ekman Larson, it was pretty good for the Panthers in the playoff, goes to Toronto. Teravainen back to Chicago. Lindholm and Zadorov to the Bruins. Montour to Seattle. Tana to the Leafs. Pesce to the Devils. I mean, damn, there's a lot of movement. Duchesne back to Dallas. Connor Brown back to Edmonton. Kulikov resigns with the Florida Panthers. Let's see. And that's a lot of Carrick to the Rangers. Bertuzzi to the Hawks. Eric Johnson to Philly. And that's just the big names. Domi goes back to the Leafs. Of course, before Campbell went to the Red Wings, the Oilers bought him out. And then there's some things that are still in the mix. You've got the Trouba situation in New York. They're trying to trade him to Detroit, but his wife is in medical school in New York, and he's kind of pissed at how they've done him dirty. So that's going to be an interesting situation. I mean, players I wanted the Kings to get, and I know that this isn't fantasy hockey here, but I wouldn't have mind them taking a flyer on Pat Maroon. I just think that, and they, who knows? They may still get him at the trade deadline. Kind of smart by Chicago. You also pick up Alex Martinez. He'll mentor the kids, and then they'll probably flip him at the trade deadline. I wouldn't have minded the Kings having a fourth line of Alex Turcotte at center with Tanner Jeannot and Lomberg. That would be very similar to the Islanders' fourth line of the last couple of years of Matt Martin, Clutterbuck, and Cizikas. Excuse me. So it's a very interesting and busy day in the world of free agency. And tomorrow stuff happens too. It's not like they just do everything today. So I like Trouba. I mean, probably the best body checking defenseman in the league. But for some reason, he makes a fair amount of money, and they got to sign their goalie, like you say. So I'm gonna guess that Jacob Trouba doesn't want to go to Detroit, even though Detroit will be good. He's at the tail end of his career, at least the tail end of his prime. He doesn't want to go to Detroit. They're going to be bad for probably 1 or 2 more years. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I think it's going to get pretty nasty because he has a no trade clause. And I think that he's blocking that trade to Detroit. Now, they could just waive him and he goes to a random team. He could, not the Kings, but he could, he doesn't want to play in Detroit because his wife's in medical school in New York. I'm sure he wouldn't be too thrilled with the Kings trading for him. Now, I'm not trying to start a rumor. I'm just saying, he could end up in San Jose. Woo! Yowza. So, I mean, tomorrow, is when it gets going. because then you got a panic move with all these guys who didn't get played today. I mean, a lot of money has been spent today, and there's really, there's not going to be a lot of money left tomorrow. Like if you were a free agent, kind of holding the Kings to the grindstone, and they went out and signed Edmondson, and they traded for Jeannot, and then signed Fogel today. You're kind of effed because now they probably don't have any money to bring in someone. So, tomorrow, really the next week is where you get the bargain basement deals. Agent bullshitting his client. I can get you a lot of money July 1st, and then all that money's gone, and now you got to take a 1-year $1 million deal on a bad team to prove yourself. Earl's thoughts on compound media closing, ACDC 5150. I mean, listen, Cumia does have a lot of money. I mean, he's not on Howard Stern's level of money. Few are, but I'm sure paying for everything and seeing subscriptions go down. People who have money like money. So it's kind of, a weird thing, because fans like us are like, well, just keep it going, man. But a studio in New York, God knows how that much costs. You're talking just the rent alone. I'm going to guess, no one's told me this, is easily 10 to 20 grand a month to get a studio space in New York. And that's not counting the electric bill for all those servers and computers and cameras and monitors and, just lamps. That's probably 5 grand a month. And, if you're not really, I mean, no offense to, the shows that are on Compound, but it's not like they have ratings bonanzas there. So, I understand it. It's just, I don't know how residuals work for Cumia in terms of, I get paid a couple times a year through the jellies. I'm dying up here, not roast battle, but, I even get checks. I'm dying up here, Real Rob. I don't know how it works in radio. I'm sure O and A it's still played somewhere and they get residuals. But, I understand why he did it. I don't know anything about Gavin. So, I think that, I mean, he probably should have sold earlier. Just because, I mean, he was riding high with Misery Loves Company, with KB, in hot water with Gino and Aaron Berg. And, I think as soon as Aaron Berg and Kevin left, the compound went down, in my opinion. But, and I don't even listen to it, but Aaron Berg's really funny. And obviously Kevin's very, very funny. So, now you're left, with Chrissy Mayer's show. And, I know Chrissy. We're not best friends or anything, but, I don't know. The show's good, but it's not great. So it'll be interesting to see how Gavin seems pretty cutthroat. So it'll be interesting to see how he operates versus Cumia, who, if you can get past his racial takes, apparently he's a pretty nice boss in terms of paying and keeping you when he probably shouldn't. Gavin apparently is the opposite. Are you making money or not? Because if you're not, see ya. Gensel to the Bolts. Yeah, I mean, that's a big one for the Bolts. I mean, the East is the East is tough, man. I mean, you look at, the Rangers are going to be up there. The Islanders are improving. Carolina, they'll recircle. They'll recover after Gensel leaving. The Panthers and Lightning are going to be there for sure. Toronto's going to be good. Boston went all in with Lindholm and Zadorov. Zadorov is someone was hoping the Kings might be in on, but I thought he might be a little bit out of their budget. And Washington's kind of retooling. I mean, they add Pierre-Luc Dubois. They don't give up a forward for him. They give up a backup goalie. Matt Roy is going to be very good for them defensively. Um, Jacob Chikrin. So if you look at, when you add Jacob Chikrin and Matt Roy, those are some good additions. Now, I don't know if they keep Chikrin because this is the last year of his deal this upcoming season. So he could be flipped at, the deadline, probably to the Kings. I mean, it's always been rumored Chikrin to the Kings. His dad played here, the great Jeff Chikrin. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna get. I've only seen what the studio looks like on TV or whatever. So, uh, that like I said, I guessed between 10 and 20 grand, and that's just to have the room. And when you just I didn't even think of the bandwidth, but and the individual salaries, and something like people like the electric bill. What are you, crazy? You know how much electricity all that shit hogs up? I mean, my electric bill in LA is high, and I'm running, an iMac, an iPad, and my TV. So, um, I can imagine what 3 or 4 high def cameras and like just those alone, what they suck up is pretty astronomical. Um, so it's going to be interesting, at the minimum to see, how it runs under Gavin, and will he be a penny pincher? Will he spend more money than Cumia? Will he bring in bigger talent? Um, maybe he brings back a guy like Kevin Brennan. But Kevin makes enough money on his own now. He probably would be like, "Fuck off." No, I'm not. I don't think Compound Media is a winning platform to have. No offense to anyone on it, but I think Cumia. I mean, he probably should have sold it earlier. He got out at the right time. Um, the mic is cranky, staticky. My mic? I mean, you are the first person to complain about it, so I don't know if that's you or me, baby doll. But everything is plugged in as it should be. I'll push it away a little bit. Staticky. Okay, well, let me check the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi is at full capacity. DJ, thank you very much for your input. Let me see here. Well, you're gonna have to deal with the mic that I have right now. Everything is plugged in and rocking and rolling, babies. So I appreciate, though. I do appreciate the feedback. Let me do that.